Welcome back to another episode of the Outsider Sports Baseball Podcast. Corey Jason, John Pauline, Ben Mandel, bringing you guys some great news here. August, about 2 months or so left, about 8 weeks, 7 weeks left in the baseball season. Races are tightening up. Teams are in it, teams are out of it. That seventh seed, that third wild card really expands things where we're going to go down to the wire because you have teams like the Pirates who are 5 games back of the wild card, still in it. And who knows if they really should be or not. You had a lackluster deadline because of this. A lot of teams like Boston who are in it early, kind of falling out of contention late. Boston also now losing Jaron Duran for 2 games because of a slur he said to a fan as he was walking up to the plate. Fan was yelling tennis racket, you need a tennis racket at Duran. And Duran dropped a not so nice word on him. I mean, not really much we're going to say about that. He's going to serve his 2 games. Hopefully he bounces back from that and he's able to move past it. But just an interesting story coming out of the weekend of Jaron Duran. I do have a question for you guys. If I told you that the son of a Major League Baseball player is making his Major League debut, this is Will Wagner, an infielder, what team would you guys guess he plays for?
Oakland?
Son of a former Major Leaguer. Any guesses? What team is known for having the sons of Major Leaguers? Toronto.
Oh.
Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette. They had Kevin Biggio. Now they have Will Wagner, son of Billy Wagner, future Hall of Famer. I don't understand how they keep getting these guys on their roster, but it's kind of funny how they just have it happen quite often. They'll have 3. They lost Kevin Biggio to the Dodgers. They DFA'd him. But just having all these guys play for the same team is kind of funny.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting.
We had Aaron Judge hit home run 299 of his career. Pretty cool how he's 1 away from 300. He will be the quickest by like 70 games to get the 300 in terms of games played. Not the youngest, but the quickest in terms of game played. Definitely putting together what could be a Hall of Fame career. Needs to do it quite a bit longer. I'd like to see him get to 500. Who knows if he's got another 200 home runs left in him at 32 years old. But right now,
for that contract, you sure hope he does.
Sure hope he's got another 300 left in him at that point.
Say, look, you just for the duration of the contract, if he averages 35 a year, you're happy.
Yeah, because that would be like 350 home runs.
That's what I mean. 35 a year, cruising.
You know, he's older, but he's averaging his 162 game average is like 54 home runs.
Well, exactly. So by the end, you know, if he's hitting between 28 and 33, you know, you're still hopefully going to be at that 35 home run or higher average for the duration of the contract.
And who knows, maybe he doesn't lose the power like you've seen greats like David Ortiz do, you know, transitions to full-time DH after a few years and just really hones in on that craft.
I was going to say, with the DH, like, Stanton's not going to be there forever. He can, you know, Judge can eventually be the DH. You know, it's just a valuable spot in the lineup now.
Now, how do you guys feel about, for Hall of Fame purposes, counting stats? Like, is there a benchmark a player reaches and you're like, all right, if they hit that number, they're a Hall of Famer? Because it's such a big number that no scrub should ever get there.
I feel like yes and no. Home runs, obviously the steroid era kind of skewed that.
But let's talk post-steroid era people, though. So we'll take out steroid era players from the conversation.
So, and that's the thing, the way the game has changed so much. What would have, like, I don't know exactly what Adam Dunn's numbers were. Right? Like what his advanced metrics would have been. But would he have been considered a high quality guy still as the strikeout or home run, you know, Joey Gallo, but less of a, you know, more of a defensive liability, rather?
If a pitcher throws 2,000 strikeouts now, 3,000, those days are gone. If a pitcher throws 2,000 strikeouts in their career, are they a Hall of Famer? Is the number 2,500?
Well, but that's the thing. Like with the game changing so much, you have new benchmarks that come in. I don't really know what those benchmarks should be, to be quite honest.
Right.
Is the starting like there are starting pitchers who have better careers than what some guys who are at the top of the game currently are going to do.
But they don't pitch as long though. Like they have,
Yeah,
I feel like they have shorter careers but better ones.
But like, is that shorter career going? Like, it's just it feels weird because you have a guy like Mike Mussina who he got in and everyone questioned like, oh, should he have really gotten in? If Mike Mussina, but like if Mike Mussina pitched now with the numbers that he put up and the career he put up, he would have been hands down, no doubt, a Hall of Famer.
So I guess what I'm getting at is we'll take offense because that's kind of where I want to go with this. 500. What do you guys make of the number?
500.
What do you guys make of the number 500 home runs? Should that be almost a lock for the Hall of Fame because the only players that have hit 500 or more are either in the Hall of Fame or are steroid users or will be inducted. So there's nobody that has 500 or more and that has been left off without having steroids in their in their nature.
You basically answered your question. I mean, 500 pretty much has always been the benchmark. You have the steroid guys who have skewed that. But at the same time, for an Aaron Judge, he started his career a little bit later than, a lot of these other guys. So maybe, because like you said, Corey, he's going to be the fastest to 300. Those other guys have about 70 games, meaning, they were coming up a bit earlier in their careers and having longer careers. So maybe, you also look at the Judge injuries. That's also a big reason why he has such a game advantage on these people. So, maybe if Judge gets to like 450, but his total games played still isn't that good. If his average per 162 is a 50 home run average over, let's call it 15 seasons, but he just didn't play a ton of games in a lot of them due to injuries or, career cut short or whatnot, gets to 450 home runs, but still has that like 50 home run average or whatever it would be. Why not? Yeah. Like, it feels like, you make the exception there. It's like, obviously he doesn't have the longevity you hope for in terms of games, but he still puts in, X amount of years. I don't know. It's tough. I'm not sure because I don't
let me
get a lot of guys.
Let me throw you a curveball down.
Numbers.
Well, let's take that 500 as we would say a likely benchmark. If a player hits there, their chances are very good, at the very least, right? Giancarlo Stanton's got 422. If he hits 500, is he a Hall of Famer?
That's what I mean. And, a lot of people, I think just with, especially for us, being in this area, Corey, there are a lot of people who just dislike Giancarlo Stanton as a Yankee.
I love Stanton.
But you know exactly what I mean. There are a lot of people
There's
who
a big hate.
Him. And I think that kind of skews just how good he really was. And I think a lot of people forget how good he was before getting to the Yankees. Like, he had a 3 or 4 year stretch where he was one of the most dominant power hitters in the game of baseball. And yet, you know what? It's very easy to be overshadowed in a lineup that has Aaron Judge in it. So when you're hurt, and then even when you're healthy, people forget you're back because you're in a lineup with Aaron Judge. It kind of overshadows it. But yeah, you know what? I think Giancarlo Stanton 100% is a Hall of Famer at 500 home runs.
I mean, I agree. And I think it's kind of crazy how that's still, very easily within the realm of possibilities. He's only 30.
I was going to say, though, how many more years is he actually going to play? Because you've seen every year with the Yankees has had some kind of injury.
Right. I mean, and we've seen what he's done this year. He's missed all this time, and he's already hit 20 home runs. He's, 34. He'll be 35 next season. He'll be under contract for another, 3-4 more years after this season, and that'll take him through his age 38 year. in order to hit another, let's just call it 70 home runs from now in 4 more years, should be more than manageable for him.
Yeah, no, the concern for me is there a point where he just kind of hangs it up?
It could happen. I mean, John, what do you think? You think, one, would he be a Hall of Famer, and two, would he hang it up before that contract's up, before he gets to 500?
I think at 500, I mean, like they was saying, I mean, not just anyone's gonna hit 500 home runs. I mean, you have to be good to hit 500 home runs. Even with like a long career, you have to be good. So I think probably he's a Hall of Famer at 500. I mean, probably doesn't hang up. I mean, if he's getting close, he might just hang around to try and get it. Because I mean, if you're that close,
and then again, you have guys like A-Rod who couldn't get a job, and he was 4 away from 700.
Yeah, but I think now with like the National League having a DH too, not just the American League, I think it's a lot. Like, there's a lot more spots on teams for players like him.
Fair.
Or just like, we're not really playing the field and are just going to be like, DHs. So I think, with the American League and National League both having DHs now, it shouldn't be that hard for him to find a spot somewhere.
Yeah, you're right. That's a very good point. And, that's something obviously that'll take a while before we ever get an answer to it. But it's always fun to speculate on these guys and their careers. Next, I do want to talk about an accolade that can go and help a player's case. Judge won the MVP in 22, had it stolen in 17, and now in 2024, he's the front runner. But the media is pushing the Bobby Witt over Aaron Judge narrative. Now, you can say Witt, is a 5-tool player, having a great season, means a lot to his team. But statistically, Judge is, much, much better. And, with on pace to hit almost 60 home runs. He's on pace for 57, and that's without another hot streak incoming, which is very possible and something he's done forever. Over 200 WRC plus. His OPS is Bonds level right now. I just don't see how you can have a legitimate, full faith argument about Witt and not really. Witt's having a great season, and it's crazy how he's going to be number 2 because he shouldn't be number 1. What do you guys think?
Look, I think at the end of the day, the best thing that happened to Aaron Judge for, his career accolades sake was Ohtani going to the National League, because there really isn't steady competition for MVP for him. You're going to need someone who's going to have an anomaly type season, like a triple crown or, getting the batting title and pushing Aaron Judge for the home run and RBI title. That's basically going to be his, unless, the Yankees sign Juan Soto, and in a couple of years, Soto eventually overtakes him for some of those numbers. But
real quick, Ben, it's interesting you brought up Triple Crown, because the only person standing in the way of Judge getting the Triple Crown is Bobby Witt Jr. Judge is second in the American League in batting average.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Like, Bobby Witt can have the batting average, but Judge is going to have the home run and RBI title for as long as, you could think. So even someone else getting the Triple Crown over Judge, you're not going to get it. And that's why, it's Judge's award, but you're going to just hear conversations, about other people, because you have to try and push someone else. You have to try and make it seem like someone else is at least, making it a contest or a competition.
Yeah, and, people bring up defensively, Bobby Witt Jr. is amazing, which is true. And how defense and being a 5-tool player should, put him over the edge over Judge, because he can do it in every single facet. And Judge, who is playing out of position, isn't anything special defensively in center field, but Witt is, the best defensive shortstop in baseball, possibly.
Yeah, but, at the same time, you have to give, for the type of hitter Judge is, for the versatility of him being able to move over and play serviceable center field, I think is incredibly undervalued. I think
it really is.
Judge being able to play center field has saved them in multiple instances. And, now that they have Jazz Chisholm, that's another guy that they can go ahead and pull and plug into center field. But look, Judge is an outstanding corner outfielder. And in center field, he's very serviceable. I think that is very undervalued. And, I call me crazy. I think having to play all three outfield positions is a bit more difficult than playing shortstop.
True. And I want to throw in, the media darling Shohei Ohtani, right? He doesn't play the field, especially this year. He's a DH only. And they're not having this conversation nationally about why Ohtani shouldn't win because he's only a hitter, because then a guy like Ketel Marte would be the front runner. So I just don't think it's fair to have that conversation if, one, you're not willing to bring up Ohtani as being disqualified by that argument of defense should matter. And two, you can't say, you support Witt and Ohtani because those arguments contradict each other.
Look, at the end of the day, Corey, you're spot on with it. And it's not like Ohtani's numbers blow Judge out of the water.
Yeah. Judge has got better numbers. Exactly.
It's not like Shohei Ohtani is going out there and has 10 more home runs than Aaron Judge, and that's why his defense doesn't make a difference. Aaron Judge is going out there putting up the same type of season, but then they're going to go and criticize Aaron Judge's MVP case because he's playing a more difficult position to benefit his team.
Yeah, and it's just silly to me because you're having a player put up, the greatest season since Bonds 04, and then before that since Ted Williams in 50-something. The super high OPS, the WRC plus. These are numbers that you get when you put, Road to the Show on easy mode. And people to just try to knock it just for the sake of having an argument instead of kind of letting him run away with it and prop him up even further. Seems like it's a bit of a New York bias. And you see that a lot with the Yankees and the Mets. Why isn't Lindor talked about in the MVP race? I think Lindor has been phenomenal this year. Should have been an all-star.
Lindor, I feel like, is one of those guys where once he got to New York, everyone just decided he was overrated.
It's just so weird.
Insane, because I think, for the most part, as a Met, again, like you said, he's been great this year. He's the heart and soul of the team.
I just don't get the biases that seem to be shown towards New York, especially when you have other teams, and have the media tends to prop up their players. Like Max Muncy with the Dodgers is whatever, but he seems to kind of get a higher national play. He's looked at a lot more favorably than, the starting star shortstop for the Mets, the best player. And to me, it's just odd. Now, I didn't want to single out just Max Muncy, but I just feel like he's somebody that really gets talked about a lot more than he should be nationally. But I kind of want to pivot to Players Weekend this weekend because they're changing it up. Do you guys remember how they did it a couple years ago?
Yeah, you have the nicknames on the back.
Right. My favorite was Kyle Seager's jersey, or shirt, really, his jersey, because it said Corey's brother on it. It was right after Corey Seager debuted, and I thought it was so funny that I bought my brother a jersey that said it and made him wear it. So he would go around. He was in school. He was like in middle school or elementary school or whatever at the time, and he was wearing the Mariners Kyle Seager jersey that said Corey's brother. And every time he wore it, I just had the biggest kick out of it. And he didn't care. He thought it was funny too. But they're not doing that this time. They're not doing these specialized jerseys. The way they're doing it is they're going to have themes, one theme for each day. The first theme is fun. That'll be Friday. And again, it starts the 16th. All teams are participating in it. The first theme is fun, which means they get to show off personalities, friendships, their interests outside of baseball. So, again, no jerseys. It'll be the regular team jerseys, but the helmets, batting gloves, bats, cleats, all these different things, regular gloves will be able to be showing it off. They're going to have broadcast stuff before the game, in between innings. They're going to have a lot of different things. Social media is going to play a role in it and showing how each individual player, has friends on other teams, their own, unique personality, which we've been seeing a lot more, and just what their interests are outside of baseball. But then Saturday, that theme is going to be causes. So that's going to be where you talk about your charities, your community outreach programs, things like that, where they're kind of separating it into each day, having its own unique, show. And then it finally ends on Sunday, where is appreciation. That's the theme, where you talk about the people who got you to where you were, everybody that helped you along your way onto your journey into becoming a big leaguer. And all that's going to culminate into the Little League World Series, the Little League Classic game between the Yankees and the Tigers. That game's going to be Sunday Night Baseball. They're going to play it at historic Bowman Field in Williamsport. And all this Players Weekend stuff is going to culminate to having these kids watch, two big leagues teams and how they really go at it. And I'm curious how you guys feel about the changes, if they should have went with the jerseys with the nicknames, or if the rigid separation between themes might play a little better.
I think it'll play a little bit better, to be honest with you. I don't like the whole shirt jersey anyway. I think, you're a baseball team, you're going to wear your team jersey. I don't love altering the uniform, but you know what? I'm on board with getting to express yourself and, do all these things. But ultimately, John, you're as close to Williamsport as any
I'm not that far away.
Yeah, you're as close to Williamsport as any of us. So I'm sure you guys used to go up there for the day, catch some of the Little League games.
Yeah, I think I've been down there. Yeah,
it's a fun little baseball town. It's great that having the Little League game there every year. I think that's something that's the most important part of that weekend, and that's going to be the biggest thing. I think get as many different teams involved, have a different set of teams each year, and get these kids into the games. Let a major league club be there. To be honest with you, I wish they played the whole weekend series there.
Yeah.
So that way that these teams can, spend the weekend, during the day, the kids are coming out and they look in the stands and, oh, Aaron Judge is there. Like, how cool would that be?
Sick.
But I mean, they always talk about, how they want to grow baseball more and how the numbers aren't good and stuff, and that it's, dying this, dying that. It's like when they do these special series, like even the Field of Dreams, like why not make it a whole series? Don't just do one game, make it a whole series. Do more stuff like that where it's like you're doing stuff with the kids, like the little leaguers, the stuff, because you want them to keep playing baseball. Like you want more interest in baseball, and that's how you do it. Absolutely. You don't do it by playing games in, you don't go do it by playing a 2-series game in London or something, or a game in, Korea. I mean, that helps with stuff, but I mean, they're not coming to see games here in the US, they're not coming out, they're not.
Don't make this because you don't want it to be like a public spectacle. Don't make it something where people are buying tickets. Make it to where it is just the Little League kids who are going and watching the major league team play at night once all the Little League games are done.
Yeah, because I mean, that's how you grow the fan base.
It's just, they don't tend to take into what the fans want and how they feel the game should be grown. They do a lot of analytics and they just take the wrong message away. This is possibly the best thing baseball does every year now. And I like how they rotate teams and have different teams play there. I wish it was the full series. I like how they're, doing Ridgewood Park and all these different places across the country, the Field of Dreams game. They should do more of that, where every team should have a series away from their home park. So what if the owners lose, one series worth of gate and they play somewhere else? The Yankees should play, in Newark, and the Mets should play, maybe somewhere in upstate New York, Delaware, Connecticut, Long Island. Why can't the Mets play where the Ducks play and get baseball spread to places that it isn't typically there?
Heck, have them play at the Brooklyn Cyclones place. That's just a fun baseball stadium.
So there's so many different things, and while the international games are good for growing the game that way, you still have a lot of room to grow it here too, and to celebrate the history of the sport.
Corey's just pushing Savannah Banana agenda here.
But I mean,
Why?
it works.
Come
It
on.
works though.
So
It
what if I
works.
want baseball to adopt the fan catches a foul ball it's an out rule?
That would be all the home team. It would be so funny. Like
Think of all the fights between like away and home fans and the
the
foul ball.
last out of the World Series is, the home team has a ball caught by their own fan because they wanted a World Series ball, not realizing that they also just doomed their team. That would be
That's
fantastic.
a storybook ending right there.
That sounds like Chicago.
Steve Bartman.
Yep.
But John, I think you know what time it is. I think you know what time it is. It's time for Pauline's prospect powwow. Take it away, John.
Okay, so this time I'm gonna highlight the first round picks of every team from this year's draft. So I'm gonna do like the same thing I did before. I'm gonna do one division at a time and just go through their first round picks. So I'll have you guys guess I guess who picked them, whose team they're on. So I'm gonna start off. I won't tell you what this one is. Like I don't tell you, have to guess. So what division? We'll see if you can get the division. If not, I'll give you the division. Ben Hess.
Sounds like a pitcher.
He's a pitcher.
Did he go to the Nationals?
No, Ben. He's a pitcher.
Ben Hess.
Do you want me to give? I'll give you the division. Do you want me to give the division?
Please.
AL East. Ben Hess.
You're gonna make me look bad, aren't you?
I might.
I know who he is
This
now.
is a Yankee.
He was the Yankees' first round pick. He was ranked the 44th. MLB had him ranked 44th overall in this year's draft. 21, 6'5". He's a right-handed pitcher. They drafted him 26th overall out of Alabama. He has a four-seam fastball from he was like 92, 96 and hit 99, mid-80s slider, mid-70s curveball, mid-80s changeup. He had a 49-8 strikeout to walk ratio and 36 and 1/3 innings on his sophomore year. I can't read my hand. I can't even read my own handwriting. But his walk ratio tripled this past year, so that's kind of concerning.
Matt Blake will fix all.
Yeah, he's had health issues with a stress fracture in high school and a flexor strain in 2023. He has upside to be a number 2 starter, but needs to limit his walks and throw more strikes. So,
I believe future
tall guy.
winner.
Is that the tall guy from Alabama, John?
Yeah, 6'5".
Yeah, that's a beast.
He's big dude. Big
Yankees
dude.
like him tall.
Now the next one, I probably have to say. Hopefully, I pronounce his name right. I looked it up. I don't know if I remember. Trey is Savage.
That's Toronto.
It is Toronto. He's another right-handed pitcher. 21, 6'4". He was MLB had him ranked 11th overall in this year's draft, and the Blue Jays drafted him 20th overall out of East Carolina. He was a reliever as a freshman, became a starter last spring, was second-team All-American, and as a junior finished unanimously as NCAA Division I. He finished among NCAA Division I leaders in ERA, strikeouts, and averages at 202 ERA, which was 4th, 145 strikeouts, which was 5th, and average against at 145, which was 2nd. He was American Athlete Conference Pitcher of the Year. He has quality 4 pitches. Best pitch, mid-80s slider / cutter, good movement, 93-95 fastball, hit 98, low 80s spike curveball and splitter, same velocity. Improved fastball command in 2024. Some effort in his delivery doesn't stop him throwing strikes. Looks like he can be a mid-rotation starter after he refines his consistency and control.
He's a Blue Jay. He'll be a bust.
You just hate the Blue Jays.
No, I don't think about them at all.
He's if it makes you feel better, it sounds like he's only mid-rotation. The Yankees pitcher is upside number 2.
That's good. That's
So,
what I like to see.
and the Yankees the Blue Jays had a higher pick
because they're worse.
Well, the guy Toronto got, though, a lot of people were saying they were shocked that he lasted to 20. He was the consensus third best pitcher or whatever it was behind the big guns up top.
Who do we got next?
Braden Montgomery.
That sounds such like an Oriole name.
It's a Red Sox, baby.
It is a Red Sox. Braden Montgomery, he's an outfielder. He bats switch, 6'2", 21. He was ranked 8th overall in the draft. He was drafted 12th overall out of Texas A&M. In 2021, teams weren't sure if he was going to be a better hitter or pitcher. But it's been, it's pretty clear now that he's going to be an outfielder. He hit 27 home runs this spring after transferring to Texas A&M for his junior season. He will be the Aggies' highest drafted position player, passing Tyler Naquin, who was drafted 15th overall in 2012.
Bust.
And in high school, he had more of a hit over power profile, but that reversed in college. He's a switch hitter with strength and quick, aggressive strokes from both sides of the plate. More damage lefty, though. He improved his plate discipline and ability to handle breaking balls. Last 2 seasons, he still swings and misses pitches in the zone, though, and he's a bit more often than he should. And he chases non-fastballs. He has average speed, plus arm strength, fits best in right field. And when he pitched, he can reach 96, but he has a higher ceiling at outfielder and a higher floor in outfielder than he does at pitching. So
it's a tough right field to play too, so he's got to really focus on that.
But he has the arm too, and you want that really strong arm in right field. Next, we got Theo, I think Gillian.
Tampa?
It is Tampa.
Look at me getting one right.
Yeah, shortstop.
Yeah, way to go, Corey. Only 2 options.
2 left. Shortstop / second baseman.
Hold your pause.
Shortstop / second baseman. He bats left. He's only 18, 6'2". He was ranked 28th overall. Was drafted 18th overall out of Westlake High School in Austin, Texas, but he's committed to Texas. So it'll be interesting if he decides to go to college at Texas or sign with the Rays. So, but I mean, that high, I mean, do you just sign and forego college, or do you go college and then hope you get drafted high again? So,
well, look, you've seen it before with number 1 picks, not getting signed. The Mets and Kumar Rocker at 10, not signing.
That was more of an injury thing, too.
Yeah, but if he ends up not signing, then the Rays are going to get the 18th pick in next year's draft again anyway. So, they're going to be picking pretty high, plus the 18th pick. That'll be pretty nice.
So, they definitely need the help, the Rays. Because I think they're starting to play, down to their level instead of playing like way above their level. I think these past couple of years.
That's what happens when you don't vet who you give long-term deals to. But more is going to come out.
No comment on that. But Theo Gillian, he had injury problems. So he had a torn labrum at his sophomore season, and he had a knee injury his junior year. They said he might have the best bat out of any high schooler in this draft.
That's pretty big praise.
So he's a disciplined approach, quick hands, and a sweet left swing that he can hit line drives all over the field. Can have a 20 home run floor. He gets more pop. He can add more strength. Hitting them all over the place and stuff. God, I wrote way too much down. solid to well above average speed. He has better range to his left than his right at shortstop, but his arm still hasn't bounced back from his labrum surgery. So that's, a question. He said he could be an offensive second baseman or possibly a center fielder because of his speed, worst case scenario, left field. But the injuries at that age, it's kind of hit and miss because there's a lot of young prospects come with that promise they get hurt and stuff, but mainly that's with pitchers, not too much with hitters. So now the last one of my favorites.
Baltimore.
This guy's name,
I'm counting it.
Vance Honeycutt. He was ranked 22nd overall in the draft. Bats right, 21, 6'3". He was drafted 22nd overall by the Orioles. So he's ranked 22nd and he was drafted 22nd. He was drafted out of North Carolina. He was a quarterback in high school and he led his team to a 2A championship in football and baseball in 2021, but was physically underdeveloped and flew under the scouting radar, even though he was drafted by the Giants in the 20th round. But he went to college, and his freshman year in college, he hit a school record 25 home runs and had 29 stolen bases. Similar numbers this spring, set new highs this season, 28 home runs and 65 career home runs, while winning the second straight Atlantic Coast Conference Defensive Player of the Year. I'd have to check his page.
That's pretty impressive. Defensive Player of the Year on top of having multiple 2020 seasons at UNC.
Consecutive Defensive Player twice.
While having 2020 seasons at North Carolina, setting records at a school that is a predominantly well-known baseball school. That's impressive.
Now, he has like some good plus tools, but his big setback is like he strikes out a ton. He had a 30% strikeout rate as a freshman, cut it down to 20%, but it's back up to 28%.
Yeah, that's not a problem for the Orioles. They'll take care of that.
But I think a lot of stuff, but I mean, even now, I feel people like if you're hitting the home runs but if you're striking out, they'll take the, 30, 40 home runs with like a, under 250 batting average if you're hitting the home runs in baseball. I feel like that's like an acceptable thing nowadays. So, but he has good, good bat speed, good power, good strength. So you're going to be a base stealing threat and a potential Gold Glover center fielder. Also, if you look at his picture he looks just like every other Orioles player they've drafted. Like I swear to God, go look at his picture, the picture they have for his
headshot.
It looks just like he looks just like it's crazy. It's actually crazy. It's insane how much he looks close to like every other player. Like he looks like Gunnar Henderson. He looks like Gunnar Henderson. Almost looks like just looks like all of them. It's crazy. It's funny.
Well, these guys are future studs or future duds, especially if you're a Blue Jay, a Red Sox, an Oriole, or a Ray. All future duds to me. But let's get into it. My stud, Astros best hitter, Yordan Alvarez. 5 games, 18 at-bats, 9 hits. He hit 5 home runs in 18 at-bats. He's hitting 500 over the last week, 8 RBIs. He's got a 2.01 OPS. And guess how many strikeouts? None. You're right. Great job, guys. No strikeouts for Yordan Alvarez over the last week, over his last 18 at-bats. So pretty good week for him. Not such a great week for Hayden Birdsong, pitcher for the Giants. 0-2 in his 2 starts. Only went 6 1/3. He gave up 12 earned runs on 10 hits with 4 home runs, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts. Hitters are hitting .345 against him over the last week, and that's good for a 17.05 ERA. That is just brutal. Brutal for a guy who really doesn't have a name for himself out there.
I don't know. The name like Birdsong, you're going to know it.
You're going to know it, but it's not a nice song that he was singing.
No, it wasn't. Look, my stud, I'm also going with the Astros. They had a pretty nice weekend up there in Boston, sweeping the Red Sox. That included 3 multi-hit games from Alex Bregman, my stud. 2 for 4 on Sunday, 2 for 4 on Saturday, and 3 for 4 on Friday. That also came after a 5-hit series in Texas. All of this on the road for Bregman. Went 1 for 5 on Tuesday, but ended up going 2 for 5 and 2 for 5 to close out the series with a total of 5 multi-hit games for Alex Bregman this week. My dud, it's going to be the Mets offense, and this is strictly because they scored a total of 1 run in 3 games in Seattle. I understand Seattle is great pitching, but the Mets offense, everyone has been talking about how the offense is great. The whole Mets offense duds this week.
Not
My
good.
stud this week, Jerks and Profar. Actually, no, it's Matt Olson.
Ben, you gonna let him talk to you about Profar like that?
But Matt Olson, 7 hits, 2 home runs, 8 RBIs, and really he hit a grand slam. So, I mean, I think whenever you hit a grand slam, that's pretty worthy.
Putting grand slams on no-hitter level. Did you make JD Martinez your stud when he hit a grand slam? Either of the 2 times he's done it this season?
No, but if it was Jerks and Profar, I would have. But Matt Olson, who hasn't been like, I think he hasn't been like, I feel kind of quiet this season, and this is one of his more productive weeks he's had all season. So, now my dud, David Bednar, he pitched about 3, a 1/3 inning, 2 blown saves for 2 losses, 6 hits, 4 walks, only 3 strikeouts. So I mean, that's kind of a rough week
That is
right there
rough,
when you're a
rough
closer.
outing.
So,
But yeah, we're getting to the end of it. A couple more weeks, couple more studs and duds. But I feel like we kind of hear some of the same names on either side, more often than others. Ben said the Mets have been his dud quite often this year. And until they prove otherwise, they keep deserving to be there. But let's get into our weekly series highlight, where we're going to highlight one series each this week that we really want to key in on. For me, that's going to be Seattle at Pittsburgh. Doesn't sound flashy when you bring it up at first, but this is their first meeting since late May of 2023. Over a year and a half since they last met in terms of baseball seasons. Do we get J-Rod versus Skeens? That's a pretty young matchup between 2 of the youngest and brightest stars in the sport. Pittsburgh, as I said earlier, 5 games back of the wild card. Seattle, 2.5 out. These are borderline teams where a bad series, a sweep either way, could either derail a season or propel them into a playoff spot or knocking on the door of one. So to me, it was either this or seeing Cleveland at Milwaukee, 2 of the top teams in their respective leagues. But I went with this one because the young stars in it really push it over the edge.
Corey, bringing up the battle of the Centrals. Yeah, for me, my series highlight, I'm going Red Sox at Orioles. This is going to be a fun series just because, the Red Sox are fighting for their lives. They're struggling. They just got swept by the Astros. They are continuing to slip now. They're getting back closer to that 500 mark. It appears they're coming back down to earth. They have a big series this weekend for their Players Weekend series against the Baltimore Orioles. Camden Yards, always a fun place to catch a game.
My weekly series is going to be Marlins at the Phillies. Really, I really want to do almost like the 2 Phillies series that they have at home coming up this week, because the Phillies need to turn it around. They need to get some series wins, even a sweep.
5-1, 6-0 type week.
This is one of they gotta go. They gotta win. I mean, you thought they turned it around when they played the Dodgers, but they lost 2. They lost 2 out of 3 against the Diamondbacks, and it's just like ever since the All-Star break, it's just been not good for the Phillies. Not good. So, like, this is kind of where they bounce back, and you have the Marlins who aren't they have a hard time being the Marlins, but they traded away a lot of their players, and the Nationals, aren't very good this season, but they're okay. So, like, these should be games series that they should most definitely win, and kind of need to win because they kind of got to start turning it around soon rather than later.
All right, guys, it's going to do it here for us. It's been a good week. Let's keep it going. Yankees, Orioles, both the only teams as of right now with 70 wins. You have a bunch of teams with under 50 losses still. It's going to be a tight race going down the wire. A couple easy schedules now going up for a lot of the better teams. Those wins should be inflated a bit more. No team on pace for 100 wins this year. But that'll be it for us for the Outsider Sports Baseball Podcast. Corey Jason, Ben Mandel, John Pauline, signing off.